I'd say there's not been a single Passover I've been part of where queerness hasn't been part of it.
My name's Zeke. I use he, him, and his pronouns. I was born in Miami, Florida, and I grew up there. And then I moved further north and lived in North Florida for a while. And then I moved to Asheville, North Carolina in 2000. I also did my transition type stuff in the late 90s, early 2000s, the beginnings of that process, which is always ongoing process and life cycle.
So my name is Leah Anderson. My pronouns are she, her, hers. I currently live in Jerusalem, Israel, and I grew up in Lake Wales, Florida.
Growing up in Miami in the 70s, basically, I remember my mom talking about not necessarily have to tell everybody you're Jewish, which is a real thing that Southern Jews experience, probably more so than people in other regions of the United States of America. Also, I very much remember there were places that Jews weren't allowed to go, clubs Jews weren't allowed to belong to, that sort of thing. And I also think that it's interesting growing up in Miami and not everyone, many people call it the last borough of New York. I think there are a lot of Jews in Miami at this point, and had been when I was growing up there. So there's this weird cultural thing, where maybe your Jewish life is flavored by a lot of what has become Northeastern culture in many ways, and then you get the Southern piece existing as well. So that what is it to be a Southern Jew is always something that I've thought about. I think also that climate is a big thing. I think that as I got older and moved out of Miami into more agrarian locations, I think that celebrating things like Tu B'Shvat became different when you're actually in an area that has a strong agricultural influence. Things like the harvest mean a lot more. Things like putting up a sukkah means a lot more. So that's a kind of a neat piece, I think, of the South as well in Judaism.
It's more that my Southern identity has affected my Jewish identity. Because having lived in the South, I think that I've had to bear witness to very blatant acts of discrimination. And those are things that, when witnessed, have really impacted how I seek justice. So when I'm a Jew and I'm saying, I think we should be pursuing justice, I think what I'm saying is I want to fight those things that I saw and those things that I experienced growing up. And yeah, I think also it sort of changes the way that I see my cultural Jewishness. I think particularly having lived in Asheville, that my cultural Jewishness is far more based in small communities than in large ones. One of the things that I've experienced here in Israel is that a lot of the time I feel so surrounded by this big Jewish community, this big Jewish country, that sometimes I really wish I could just be in a place where there were a whole lot less. Like I wish I could feel at home again being in just this little Jewish community out in the middle of nowhere. And yeah, I think that's something that has really affected me.
I think particularly for me, having chosen Asheville as my place to live is a little bit of specific flavor of North Carolina. I think there's a special nuance to that that's relevant to my being a North Carolinian Jew, queer, trans person. Asheville has a very wonderful arc of GLBT stuff, and also a very wonderful arc of Jewish culture as well. When I moved here, I thought, moving to North Carolina, there's not going to be a whole lot of Jews around. And when I moved, there were like 2 shuls going,
Yeah.
running, and with healthy populations too. So that was surprising. And Asheville has the distinctive honor of having one of the longest continually running transgender support groups in the entire world. So there have been trans people in this area for a long time, and that was part of why I moved here. It's because where I was living in northern Florida, I didn't know of any trans people who would talk to me, and I was somebody who really needed to talk with people. So that's a little bit about transness, Jewishness in North Carolina.
So I think living in North Carolina in general didn't really influence me so much, but Asheville did. I think living in a place where the Jewish community is really unified, or at least seemingly unified, has really spoiled me. I think the way that I see myself as a Jew is a lot different now, having been in an environment where you don't have a choice but be pluralistic. Synagogues are really important. I think that's one of the places where there are a lot of opportunities for gender validation. And outside of Orthodox synagogues, and even in some Orthodox synagogues, I'm surrounded by communities that really do want to validate me and really do want to support me. So that's been really important for me. I think other than that, I can't think of a public place where I really feel as secure or as validated or as safe.
When I first moved to Asheville, I found some Jews, and I was like, all right, let's have Seders. And they're like, oh, we've been doing this. I'm like, yes, that's awesome. So ever since I moved to Asheville, I guess in 2000, I've been getting together with queer folks and holding Seders. That's always been very important to me. Passover has always been my particular favorite holiday, not necessarily because of what the holiday means or says, although I don't know, freedom and liberation, those are pretty important, right? Those are cool.
Yeah.
But more around getting people together for extended periods of time and eating. Not just eating, but the conversation that goes on. For me, my experience as a trans person is very interesting. My experience as a Jewish person is very interesting to me because of the fact that my father is not Jewish. So we have an intermarried family, and then on the other side, like my queerness, I'm a trans guy and I'm married to a woman. So when people see us in the world, we read very much as a straight couple. So that's an interesting nuance that comes into our lives as well, and that's a piece of celebrating holidays. Also, because her father was Jewish and her mother was not, and she was not brought up in a house that practiced any particular religion whatsoever. So for her, it was kind of this novel concept, like, oh, you're Jewish, and I have some Jewish in my background as well. Maybe we should do Jewish things, which she finds very strange. I get to explain to her, and she's learning, which is fun. So I feel like everything that I do in my life has these little differences and twists, and I think that's like the essence of being a Jew in the South. Is everything you do is a little twist.
I'd say there's not been a single Passover I've been part of where queerness hasn't been part of it. Where I haven't thought of the liberation from Egypt as being a metaphor for coming out of the closet or being born as a trans person or, as any other number of liberatory stories. And I remember last year at our Tzedek Seder, we had this awesome Seder plate symbol of queerness, which was lavender. And that was really new for me, but it was really fantastic. And I think it's going on my Seder plate again this year. And always there's an orange, because particularly as a woman, that's really important to me, is that there be an orange as a queer woman. Because the orange represents both queerness and womanhood in Judaism, and the ritual validity of both, even if there's not an official place for those things on the Seder plate.
I really feel like as Jews, we should be doing more work in and around immigration. We should be doing more work around racial justice. I think that Jews could lead the, hold the banner for reparations.
I agree.
I think that that's, just a huge thing that needs to happen, and I think that we are sort of uniquely placed to be doing that work.
Yeah, first of all, Jews of color, they exist, they're important, and they can't be ignored. And I think that a lot of the time they become ignored because we sort of just see each other as white Jews. We don't make safe spaces for Jews of color. And so when high holidays come around and there's a cop at the door of our synagogue, Jews of color don't always feel like they can walk up. And because of that, they don't feel like they can walk up any other time of the year. And I think I also want to uplift Jewish womanhood. I think that's really important, and we take it for granted now that we have Reform, conservative, and independent communities who have made Jewish women's leadership important and a priority. But I mean, Jewish women are still definitely second-class citizens in a lot of ways, and the fact that sexual harassment is still happening in our communities, and we very much want to avoid that Me Too moment. We very much want to avoid the complete outing of all the men in the Jewish community and Jewish leadership who have sexually harassed women, but it's coming. And it's really necessary and important. So I kind of just want to leave those there, people of color and women. I think those are really central and important identities we have to remember, especially in North Carolina.